And greetings and welcome to the QCast. This is a three QCast day. It's a big day. This is season 5, episode 39. I just spoke with Coach Joe Riley of Wesleyan, 18 and 0. And if you haven't had a chance to check out that episode, it's a really good one. And this is another good one. Now, this gentleman, I can't believe, is the first time really we're kind of talking for real because I feel like I've known this guy for a decade and that we've talked a million times in the decade, but I think this is the first time we've ever been even on a video together. And that's Greg Mason, the head men's basketball coach at Center College in Danville, Kentucky. And Greg, am I correct? It feels like we should have met before now, but I don't think that we really have.
No, we haven't spoken, but my Twitter communication and DMs and you've helped me so much over the years try to understand SOS and all these different rules and then things like that. And this year, so we played in Webster's tournament, and the primary reason we did it, we needed 2 games, but number two was I wanted to meet Bob as
I
he was
bailed.
traveling with, and I think you were in like maybe the Maui or
It wasn't
uh,
Maui. No, I actually made a tough D3 hoops decision. I bailed on Webster and my own team to support my friend Ryan Whitnable at the Great Lakes Invitational. I was at Calvin while you were with my team in St. Louis, Greg, and I apologize for missing that.
That was a bummer. That was a bummer. It was one. Ron and I spoke about you quite often during those 2 days. So even though you weren't there, you were actually there.
I was watching both games from the scores table at Calvin, and they were kind of ugly. Other teams were playing zone games, and my team wasn't shooting it super well. So I was just looking for a W, but I hope my Titans looked okay there in St. Louis. Did they look pretty good getting off the bus, don't they? That group that Ron
Well,
has.
and I kid you not. So 2 things. One, that was Thanksgiving basketball, and that's a tough time. Everybody's thinking about their family. Even I'm thinking about my family. So everybody's their mind's a little bit somewhere else. But to answer your question, they look good and physically. I mean, just Roper, the big 6'10" guy down low. I wanted my freshmen to see, hey, this is what the really elite basketball looks like at the Division III level. Because we don't play Wesleyan, but for them to see them, I thought was very advantageous to our team. And I think it's helped us grow a little bit and understand, hey, when coach says we got to block out, we have to do this, we have to rotate, we have to be in position. That's
Right.
who we are trying to eventually become.
Yeah, he has a special group, and fingers crossed, big season underway. And it was cool to know that you were there because I know you and Ron have been close, and good to know you guys had a chance to connect. And Greg, let's talk a little bit about. Let's first start with this season for the Colonels, 10-6, 2-2 in the conference right now. How are we feeling at this stage of the season, sitting here 10-6? Are you happy? Do you think you've given a few away, or just talk about kind of where things stand here?
Yeah, I'm incredibly proud of our guys because we started like right now we're starting 2 freshmen in the post and backing them up with a freshman, and that's tough. That's tough, especially when you're going against fourth, fifth year guys. So we're 10-6 right now. Yesterday was the first game we've lost that was actually close. So the 5 losses before that were all blowouts. Just games where we weren't quite ready physically to play. But we're 10-6. If you'd have told me 3 months ago, I'd say, yeah, that's probably what I'm looking at as far as coaching a young team. But Bob, we're approaching 65 games lost due to injury. Our backup point guard's out for the year with a broken wrist. Our two
Wow.
guard has something wrong with his knee. He's been out the last 5 or 6 games. Our starting point guard, our backup 5, our third string 5. So we've had a lot of injuries. So for us to be where we are, man, our guys are doing really, really good.
You've got Sewanee next up. I think they're this Wednesday, and then Friday. I think you host Millsaps. What are you looking at for those 2 games this week? I know you're really just prepping for Sewanee at this point, but what do those 2 matchups bring for you guys?
One is a good team. They're preseason number 1 in our league, and they've kind of done it the old-fashioned way. They've recruited freshmen, and they've watched them develop into their senior year. They have good players. Russ Marr is an All-American. They have another player, Avi Alani, who's really good. Trey Corrigan has hit big shots. He hit a shot to win the conference 2 years ago. His dad is actually the AD at NC State. So Swanee is good basketball. Millsaps don't know a lot about them just yet. They have a lot of new guys. We'll find out about that. But once again, we took a loss yesterday, but I'm really proud of how our guys have responded. The injuries have been crazy even to me.
Sure.
What I told him the other day, my mentor told me, he said, Greg, you got to know this. The only thing fair in life is a ball hit between first and third base. So everything else, you got to deal with it, figure it out. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to do and please with my guys.
Your leading scorer at this point is Jackson Banks, who's averaging 16 points a game, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. He's shooting what 52% from the field, which is crazy. Talk a little bit about Jackson Banks, if you would.
Yeah, he's done his senior year is one of the most rewarding I've had. I've been here 25 plus years. And Jackson's story is unique. He didn't play beginning of last season, probably the first 5 or 6 games. He wasn't even in the rotation and just kept on being patient, kept on being patient. Now he's had his chance. We've had some guys leave and graduate. He has his chance and he's first team all league. He's our best offensive player at the moment. Once we get Caleb Thomas back, that will help him. But also he may be our best defensive player too. So that's a little bit that's a lot to take on. But Jackson's having a great year.
And then Landon Hamilton's another guy having a big year for you. He's another starter, 14 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Talk about Landon, if you would.
Yeah, he had 28 yesterday, and he's a really good traditional point guard. Kind of a Steve Nash will score if he senses that he needs to score, but he's better getting in the paint, 2 feet, making passes. And that's the reason why him and Jackson had such a good chemistry going before all the injuries. And he would get in there, penetrate, kick out. Jackson would hit the three. And those two played really, really well together. So we lost Landon for about 6 or 7 games,
Right.
affected everything, but now we have him back finally. And so that's big time. He's a good player. He's an all conference player too.
I suspect one of the guys you mentioned that's hurt is Caleb Thomas because I noticed that he was not in the last lineup. 15 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Is he one of those guys that is out for you right now, Greg?
Absolutely, absolutely, and we're hoping it's still we're waiting on doctors' orders and those types of things. But he's been a godsend. He transferred to us from Birmingham Southern. They had to close this year. I
Yeah.
was good friends with their coaches, and they just told me, said, "Hey, you may want to take a look at Caleb. Really good kid, really good player." And Bob, since he's been here, he's been way better than we anticipated. Not only on the floor, but off the floor. I mean, just a wonderful young man. And if we get him back, we really fit. And it's so hard today with so much roster turnover to get a team that fits. And we really fit 6 weeks ago,
Sure.
even when Ron saw us at Webster. And we haven't fit for about 6 weeks. So for us to continue to win some games, we wanted Oglethorpe. I wasn't on the bench. Half of our team was out. We only dressed 11 guys. For us to win that game says a lot about the character and resiliency of this group.
Well, one other guy to ask you is Nolan Wall.
Yeah.
10 points, 8 rebounds. He's shooting the three at 49%. Now I didn't look at the volume to that. I don't know how many threes he shot, but pretty crazy numbers there. Talk about Nolan Wall, if you will.
He's a freshman, a true freshman, and we knew coming in that he was going to be a good one. But he had I think 19 rebounds against
Wow.
Montbon earlier in the year, and I told him the other day, I said, man, I think you're the best freshman in the league. I think there's more meat on the bone. I think you can put up big time numbers, so I think he's just now starting to realize that hey, 10 points, 8 rebounds, I can maybe do more. But he's a talented freshman. I would be disappointed he's not freshman of the year.
You mentioned injuries on your roster, and the head coach has also been injured. I know that from Twitter, saw a picture of you. I think you coached in crutches and a boot in your last game, right? So what's going on with your injury there, and what's your status, Greg?
Yeah, I'm actually on medical leave, but the doctor said as tolerated. If I can come in for practices, if I can come in for games, then he's okay with it. Really, this is the only time I've been in the office in 2 weeks is to have this podcast with you.
Nice.
So I have a stress fracture. It took them about 7 weeks to really say that's what it was. And in the meantime, I hurt my knee because of it and things like that. So funny story. So we won on December 30th. And I was not really going to coach. I was going to sit back and kind of let my assistant coach, Gavin Root, who's done a really good job. And Gavin came down with strep throat the morning of.
Ooh.
And so I coached, we beat Wet Methodist thanks to Jackson Banks hitting the last second three. And my assistant coach was our bus driver.
Wow.
So he sat on the bus with me. Now, luckily, he's a friend and we knew him and trust him, but he kept fouls and I was on his phone seeing what free throw percentages and stuff like that. I mean, just stories that Bob, I mean, you just, I mean, like, Danny Hurley's not experiencing this stuff. What I'm trying to say.
That's a YD3 kind of thing right there.
Exactly, exactly. I am getting better. I think I'm maybe about a month away from being 100%. And another thing on the injury too, we are missing our best player. Riley Maston was freshman of the year last year. He's 6'7". He's 215. Put it this way, he could play in the CCIW. He's
Sure.
that good. And so he tore his ACL about this time last year, and he's in practice and stuff, but we don't know if we're going to have him. So again, we could have had a really talented team this year, uh, but our guys are just figuring it out. Jackson Banks is coming up big. Carson Woolridge is coming up big. Yesterday, Landon Hamilton was great. So again, I can't say enough about the resiliency of this group.
Tell us a little bit about your alma mater. So you graduated from Center in 1994. You played there. You were a good hooper. You were well over 1,000 points scored. Second all time in threes, coach. Still, I think 244 is still number two that your guys are chasing. 374 assists. So you were a great hooper at Center. But for people that don't know much about Center College in Danville, Kentucky, just kind of walk us through a little bit of the profile of the school.
Yeah, it's a great academic school. We've had so many wonderful people here, leadership that have enabled us to keep on growing as a school. Recently, Forbes magazine called us one of the 15 best schools in the South. And that's, you're talking about WNL, you're talking about Emory, you're talking about Duke, Virginia, Carolina, all those schools. And so it's a wonderful academic situation. 29.6 is our average ACT. And basketball wise, from 2000 to 2020, I should say, we had a winning percentage of around 77%.
Oh
So
yeah.
we played really good basketball. And so if you're looking for the combination of great academics and really, really, really good basketball, Center's your place. And stuck right here in the center of Kentucky, 30 minutes south of UK, about an hour and 15 minutes to the east of Louisville. So it's a wonderful place. It's a great place to raise a family.
Let's talk a little bit kind of about where the program has been, because Center has a very rich tradition in NCAA Division III. Center's been to what, two Final Fours? Is that correct, Greg? Two Final Fours?
Yeah, correct.
Um, you've been to eight NCAA tourneys, all kinds of superlatives we could throw out there. Now, before COVID, when we go back and look, like in 18-19, you guys are 23-5, 12-2. In 19-20, you were 24-5, 11-3. COVID hits, and there are stories like this all across the landscape here in Division III, where COVID hits and programs that we were used to seeing in the top 25 and with big time records have struggled. And in 21-22, which was the first kind of real year after COVID, you were 11-12. Last year, 5-20. Or I should say 22, you were 11-12. 23, you were 5-20. Last year, 12-14. We mentioned you're 10-6 now. So you're in good shape now. I don't know if there's an answer to this, Greg, but like, talk about the impacts of the COVID period of time and how that impacted your program, because I don't think everyone has appreciation that there are some colleges and universities that have been really struggling to bounce back the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. We were always an older team. I think Mike Bray said it at Notre Dame when they had success at Notre Dame is because they would take freshmen and sophomores, get them to their junior, senior year. There would be experience. And in the huddle, I could say, okay, we're going to run double high and let's flip this and let's maybe undercut this. And my guys understood it because they've been with me for 3 years. So after COVID and before COVID, yeah, 20, we went to the NCAA tournament. 19, we got beat on a last second shot. In 18, we played Kentucky within 40 points, which back then
Right.
that saying a lot.
Right.
We had some really good teams. And then once COVID hit, we had some, Center is a 4 year school and everybody's guaranteed to graduate in 4 years. And other schools just aren't. So it's kind of a different set of rules, different set of playing rules, and it was not foreseen. Sometimes you'll see a situation. Okay, if you're recruiting against, let's say Emory. Okay, it's a great school, a great academic school. You know that going in. Now all of a sudden, you're playing against schools and you don't know what the roster is going to look like. And there's been times where in the middle of the year, all of a sudden, a player in his fifth or sixth year will jump on a roster and it just changes what the team looks like. And it just is what it is. It has really impacted us negatively. We've tried to start, and again, 2 years ago, we tried to start really, really young with a group of freshmen. Didn't quite work out like we hoped, but we were going against some older teams. And now we're in the same situation. I mean, we're starting at this moment, we're starting a sophomore, a junior, a senior. And the junior and senior have not played a lot of minutes in the past, and then two freshmen, and then backing them up with freshmen and freshmen. So um, it just it's a lot easier to coach when you're coaching 22-year-old guys.
And I think one of the things that I think everyone understands this, but maybe doesn't appreciate it as much as when you're trotting out a roster with normal age kids, so freshmen through seniors, and you're playing against teams that have fifth year guys, and again, you guys are generally a place where kids come for 4 years. Um, it's a big difference to have like a 23-year-old playing against a 20-year-old. I mean, I've seen that. I'll tell you that I've seen that close up with Illinois Wesleyan. That we really have all of our best guys have graduated, and then they've gone on to be D2 studs, including Ryan Soroka, who right now is on the number 15 team in D2, starting and playing great. There are teams that have not had the advantage of the fifth year. Talk about like that 23-year-old versus 19 or 20-year-old kind of dynamic.
In today's day and age, it's even more pronounced. I mean, the 19-year-old today is maybe a little bit different than the 19-year-old 15 years ago. But just physically, I mean, we're going through a lot of injuries, and part of me wonders maybe if the freshmen didn't quite understand just how tough college basketball is. So that's a little bit of that right there. But yeah, the biggest thing is roster construction. I mean, you hear this all the time right now. If you have a hole in your roster, if you're a school that has grad school, go out and get a bunch of fifth year guys. And there's been a couple teams, we know who they are, who have been really, really successful doing that. And they go get somebody who's already been taught 4 years at another school, and then they come in and reap the rewards of a fifth year. And it just is what it is. Kentucky, right up the road, this year they're starting four graduate students, and I think their other guys maybe like a junior or something like that. So, if we had graduate school, I would be using it, but we don't. And it's just little things. I mean, physicality is a given, but a lot of like my freshmen, like shell drills, defensive understanding. I mean, we're playing a lot of zone right now because my guys just don't understand college defense. And so it really impacts everything you do. And then there's a confidence or a lack thereof of, okay, let's look at this other team's roster, and they may have two or three guys that we've never seen before, who may be fifth year guys, and you look up and you're like, hey, they're pretty good. And just I would love to sit here and say it's not fair, but again, the only thing in life fair is ball hit between first and third, so you got to deal with it, adapt or die.
Yeah, and that brings me to the next question, because this was kind of something I was involved in on Twitter a few weeks ago, and I know that you're very interested and passionate about this. But there's talk of the NCAA moving to 5 years of eligibility, and I think it's based on some things going on regarding JUCO eligibility, and it's kind of turned into this. Well, then maybe NCAA should have five. And I don't know. I have no reason to believe for sure that that's coming to Division three. But if the NCAA is talking about it, it's certainly going to be on the table for Division three as well to talk about. And I think that brings us to the concern that we both agree on. Again, from schools that don't have grad programs, from 4 year schools, that if that became a permanent thing, that has a lasting impact. It's one thing that the last 4 years for that to be a thing, but talk about, Greg, like the impact if that were to actually be a thing in Division three where there were 5 years.
Well, for a school like Center, it would be obviously hugely negative, and there's a lot of other schools out there that it would impact. The NCAA right now, there's so much stuff on Twitter. You don't know what's going to come to us and what's not. And let's be honest, NCAA is very reactionary. They should have been out in front of this stuff a long time ago. That's probably about all I'm going to say on that. But it's one where the fifth year with the COVID was a mess. And I had somebody not affiliated with the NCAA, but a really high-ranking administrator in college athletics. I just called him and said, "Hey, do you realize this is what we are facing? A school that does not have this possibility?" And his exact quote was, "Greg, we really screwed this up." So that was significant. And at that point, I quit arguing with him because there's just so many. It's like a spider web. So many things that jumped out in different ways, and all of a sudden you're looking up, and um, it's just been really really bizarre. I'll say this, that obviously it hurts schools like a center, but who it really hurts is the high school senior. And I feel for
It
these
does.
kids because when I came out, in the early 90s. That was a great time to be playing basketball and being at a place like center. And I was recruited. And some of these kids today, I go see discouraged kids because they've been told all their life, "Hey, work hard on your game and you'll get your college paid for." And Division I coaches are not recruiting high school kids right now. They're taking all these fourth and fifth year guys. And maybe it's becoming at the Division III level too. It's become much more of a JUCO feel the last 4 or 5 years. So there's a lot of people, everybody say, "Well, let's do what's best for the athlete." But my question is, are we doing that? 5 years,
Sure.
4 years should be enough. I mean, it used to be 3 years. It's gone to four. I think 4 years has worked for a long, long time. I don't understand the push for five. I really don't.
And I guess that's one area where I think that, like, I always look forward to this COVID year of eligibility being over. I've consistently said no one's done anything wrong, but like Ron Rose said to me, is he said our senior class, Q, Nick Roper and Hakeem and Harrison, that group, they'll never be the oldest guys, right? So they played North Central the other day, and Ethan Hellwig's 2 years older in high school than those guys, right? He's like 25 years old. No, he's doing nothing wrong. Great player. But I'll be glad when that thing's over. And I think what Ron Rose has done a good job. He just uses the model he always had, which is he's just recruiting high school kids. He's got a freshman starting point guard this year. Last year, Mason Funk was a freshman six man. The year before that, Carlo Kolak. And so, like, do you see a day coming, like starting next year, where we get back to the high school recruiting programs being, the most coveted position, or are we in a permanent position where transfers and transfer portal are hugely impactful in Division III? How do you see that?
Division I, I think definitely it's the cat's out of the bag, so to speak. Division III, I don't think we've had a lot of um, at least I haven't been told exactly what it's going to look like. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those, like, the fifth year thing. Does it affect Division III? I really don't know. And first opportunity, I'm going to ask my athletic director, "Hey, what does this mean for center?" That's the reason why I have so much respect for Ron and how he's doing it. He's doing it the old-fashioned way because it fits Illinois Wesleyan. That's what Illinois Wesleyan wants: is kid come in as a freshman, have a 4 year experience, go out in the real world, be successful, come back, donate, be a part of life. And I hope we don't reach a point where at the Division III level, a kid goes to center first freshman year, leaves, comes back, just goes to three or four
Yeah.
different schools. The reason why I have so much respect for what Swanee has done, because Brian brought all those kids in as freshmen. They took their lumps, and they're a good basketball team right now. They're all seniors. So I hope we stay with that because, man, it's worked for what, 70, 80 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And again, just to stress, is like, if I was coaching at a program that had grad schools, you better believe I'd be looking to leverage that too. Like Elmhurst in our league, Coach Baines has done a great job of bringing in like his own fifth year guys and outside fifth guys like Quinn Pemberton last year, and they I think they have one this year. So no one's breaking rules or doing anything unethical or wrong. It's just, it seems like it's an not level playing field. And if that's going to be something that we're talking about permanently, if we don't know, I just hope that we have the right people in the room, and all sides of that conversation are on the table, I guess, is all I would say about that. Right.
100%. I couldn't. That's very well stated. Better than what I could say it. And yeah, you just want to be in a situation where the rules are equal for all teams. And if we have to split, I don't know what that looks like. That's way above my pay grade. But I agree with you. You know, if you have Division threes with grad schools and Division threes without grad schools, I'm sure administrators would say we're not going to do that. But you want to go into the situation with similar rules. And I know some schools are richer than others. Some schools have better financial aid than others. Some schools have better academics than others. Sometimes you recruit a kid that we don't offer their major, and that's just part of it. But this fifth year thing, to me, that should not be part of it.
Yeah, I think I look at like again, more power to him. Like what NYU has this year is they're able to bring in the best player at Cal Lutheran, Brock Sesko, come in as a fifth year. Carnegie Mellon's leading scorer, maybe leading scorer, it's top two or three scores. Jack Stone comes in for a fifth year. And they have a transfer from somewhere else come in as a grad student. That's great. It's just that, not everyone can do that. And so I guess the question is that fair? And I'm not trying to arbitrate that on the QCast, but it seems to me like for the last 4 years, it being a COVID thing, it's like, okay, COVID was awful. We want to make sure everyone gets that full experience. But boy, moving forward, that would be a concern. I think that's where I would leave that one, Greg.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
In terms of your gig at center, most people probably don't realize you've been in that gig since 99, 2000, right? The 2000 season was your first year. Incredibly successful tenure at your alma mater. Talk about what this experience has been like since 99, coaching at your alma mater.
Well, a couple small things that you'll find humor in. So the year before, my last year as an assistant coach, we played against Hanover, and the starting point guard was Micah Shrewsbury, now the head coach at Notre Dame.
Yeah,
And also that year, we played against DePaul, and their two guard was a guy named Brad Stevens.
sure.
So that tells you a little bit about the timeline. I feel like I just started. The biggest thing, and I said this the other day, is I was immensely uh, fortunate, lucky. My first year, I was 27 years old as a head coach. And looking back on it, I made every mistake possible. I was overly emotional. Back then, everybody tried to be Bobby Knight, and that wasn't my personality. And I had a group of guys that they let me make mistakes. They let me coach them. And to this day, many of them are some of my best friends. Like one of them called me this morning asking for a favor. So I was really, really fortunate to get that group to build a foundation. And then from like 2004 to about 2020, 2004, 2020, we had scary good teams. Like at one
Right.
point, we were two in the country. Just I have a lot of former players who I'm very good friends with today, and that means a lot to me. And then also, it's kept me close to my family. My mom is 83 years old and texts me after every game. She was upset yesterday with the officials. So it just gives you some things that people don't realize. It's been a great run for me, and I hope I have. I know I'm on my back nine. I don't know if I'm on hole 12 or if I'm 17, but I'm gonna keep playing, and hopefully I don't hit one in the water here soon.
No, I think you're just like on the 11th green. That's all. It's the 11th green. You just got a hot dog at the turn. Everything's fine. We're
Question: where does Ron think he is? Is he on 11 as well?
I've never asked Ron that. I think maybe he's on 12T. Maybe he's on the 12T. He can't even see 18. He's having such a good time. So I
Yeah,
think he's on the 12T, little par three with some water, you know, might
yeah.
chunk it
Well,
into the water on occasion, but I think he's thrilled.
yeah. Well, tell him, hey, wait up for me. If I'm on 11 green and he's on 12, wait up for me, and I'd like to play the last six holes with. So,
That would be cool to see a Illinois Wesleyan center game in about the Sweet 16. That would be you better believe I won't bail on that one to go to Grand Rapids, Michigan. You better believe I'll be there. Um, finally, and then I got to get some final thoughts to you. Is I think at some point you had a chance to meet my guy, Coach Steve Schweer, and
yes.
you guys have something in common in that I have this running team, and I call it the all D3 hoops guys who are playing up several levels team, and I have named you guys the honorary co-captains. You and Steve Schweer. did you run into each other somewhere and get a chance to celebrate your
We sure
nominations,
did. We
Greg?
took a picture. I think it was me, Steve, and Ron took a picture and sent it to you at NABC Congress. I believe maybe Minnesota. I can't remember where we were at. Yeah, Steve's done a great job. I mean, where he's at right
He's
now,
awesome.
and I don't know their record this year. I know they're winning a lot of games. I follow him on Twitter. But yeah, Bob, my wife loves the comments, and I've told her, hey, I've outpunted my coverage, and she doesn't football. She has no idea what that means. And she always said, is that a compliment to me? Or yeah, honey, believe me, it is. And I've been very lucky to that through this injury, she's been, and my little 7-year-old daughter, they've been above and beyond. I mean, they run errands for me. They wife cooks for me, and just trying to keep me on the couch and everything. But yeah. Thank the world of Steve. Thank the world of Ron. And yeah, I totally outpunted my coverage.
Well, I got to say, I've appreciated getting to know you over such a long period of time. I appreciate you sent me the coolest, like little bourbon glass and some teas a couple years ago. That's still proudly displayed in the QCast studios over here. And again, I appreciate just how candid you are and kind of what's going on with your program, some of the challenges, some of the things you're doing to get it back. Look, 10-6 right now, 10-6, feeling good, and hoping there are bright days ahead for Center College because, like you said, boy, you were number 2 in the country in 2008, and as recently as 2020, 24-5. And so I think that day is coming back our way, Greg. I want to give you the final thoughts on the QCast today. I always, as Dave McHugh taught me, like to give the guest the final thoughts. And you're going to have some center folks tuning in, some D3 folks tuning in, maybe greater Danville, Kentucky residents will be tuning in. What would you like to leave everyone with today, Greg Mason, on the QCast?
Well, first, thank you for what you do for Division III, Dave McHugh as well, Pat Coleman. You guys make it fun. This experience, like back in the early 90s, there were so many awesome experiences with playing basketball at center. And I'm trying to kind of get that back a little bit. COVID, obviously, is almost like the train went off the track, so to speak. So thank you all for all you do. Moments like this
Absolutely.
remind me, hey, people are paying attention. It's important. Not only are we trying to educate kids, but the basketball is important too. As far as my team goes, better days are ahead. And right now, we lost yesterday by 4 to a very experienced, good roads team. But my point guard's a sophomore. He just came off injury. He had 28 yesterday. My backup point guard's a sophomore. Wonderful young man, broken wrist. My 2 guards a sophomore. We hope he's back. He's got something going on with his knee. My senior wing, we've got 2 seniors that are doing great. But Riley Maston is a sophomore post. He's coming off of ACL. So if we can just keep these guys, keep their confidence, keep their spirit, we're going to get back. To what level? I don't know, because some of it's, what's the NCAA going to say about 5th year?
Right.
What's going to be COVID? I mean, those things are real. Those things are real. But all in all, what we can control, I really like what we're doing here. We have a great group of young men. And if just spirit alone gets us back to where we once were, they're going to do it.
Folks, that is Greg Mason. He's the head coach of the Colonels at Center College in Danville, Kentucky. They're 10-6. They're 2-2 in the league right now. And Wednesday they play Sewanee. Friday Millsaps. Greg, it's great to finally meet you after all this time, and I hope I see you in a gym somewhere. And again, I'm really looking forward to that Illinois Wesleyan matchup. Now, I wish it was this year because I think we're a lot bigger than you. I think we might just throw it in the post and play some bully ball. But when it happens in a few years, I
Yeah.
think you're
I
going to
kid,
have your dudes ready for us then.
I kid you not, Bob. Back in Thanksgiving when we were playing, I told the guys, I said, so like if we were to win our league, that would be our first round opponent. Talking about you guys, Illinois Wesleyan. So they kind of, you could tell they understand. Okay, there's good basketball out there. So maybe it's this year. We better get healthy first, though.
You might just set up in a zone against us like everyone else does and see how that goes. I don't know.
We can't guard Roper. I can tell you that. No idea how to guard Roper.
Greg, thank you so much. It's great to chat with you, and I really do hope to see you around a gym sometime soon. Okay.
Bob, you're the best. Thank you, man.